this 1988 Mercedes-Benz 300e 6.0 AMG. A bit of a mouthful? Well, you can just call it the Hammer. Quick history lesson for you guys. So AMG was founded back in 1967. In fact, back then, they had really nothing to do with Mercedes-Benz. It was only in the 70s that they started taking Mercedes-Benz cars as an aftermarket tuner and putting performance upgrades. So what that means is back then, you would go to Mercedes, to the dealership, buy your Mercedes car, drive it to AMG, give them the keys, and they would pimp it out for you effectively. It was only in 1986 that they took the big V8s from the S-Class and started putting it here in the E-Class. They bored out the 5.6-liter V8 to 6 liters, and that's what is in this big brute, also earning its nickname, the Hammer. So in the front, we have a very menacing blacked-out grille, a very typical late 80s Mercedes headlamp with the wipers in the front. As we go towards the side, you see the very low bumper, generally a very low stance for this car. Beautiful, gorgeous wheels. I love these retro 80s wheels, these 17-inch AMG wheels. Again, there's barely any suspension travel. This is so hunkered down, very menacing. And I also love this gorgeous, really cool, wide body. Everything is all black. Everything is very square. So compared to the Mercedes of the previous era, like in the 50s, there's a lot more geometric, straight angles and straight lines in the design of their cars. Again, towards the side, still very sleek. It's almost like a sleeper. It doesn't have any large wings, doesn't have huge side skirts, nothing that's, brash and frivolous about it. It's very subdued. It's very stealth. And if you come towards the backside as well, long trunk, a very tiny, almost minuscule spoiler, and of course AMG exhaust tips. Over here, Thomas, if you take a look, this has the AMG stamped into the boot lid. So, interesting thing. You see a lot of AMG badges here, AMG badges on the wheels, AMG badges on the exhaust tips. But what is the thing that you don't see? You don't see any Mercedes badges. There is no 3-point star. And that is because during this time, Mercedes frowned upon the whole aftermarket tuning culture that AMG was following. It was only later in 1993 that Mercedes-Benz finally signed a contract of cooperation to share their dealer network and co-develop performance cars. And that's because this car could hit almost roughly around 300 kilometers per hour top speed, and back then was touted to be faster in a straight line and around a racetrack than the Ferrari Testarossa, the Porsche 911, as well as the Lamborghini Countach. And finally, this pushed them to make this contract. It was only in 1999 that Mercedes bought over 51% stake in the company, and later on completely bought it over in 2005. At the heart of this Hammer is this gorgeous 6-liter V8, which started off life as the 5.6-liter V8 in the W124 S-Class of that time. It was bored out to this 6-liter capacity. It's mated to a 4-speed automatic gearbox going to rear-wheel drive with a limited slip differential. This makes 384 PS or metric horsepower and 566 Newton meters of torque. Vmax was around 300 kilometers per hour, and it could do 0 to 100 in less than 5 seconds. Well, this is a 4-door, so like the M5 of the time, you could take your family in your 300CE AMG. And the back seat, if you take a look, it's like a couch. It's so luxurious, so rich and deep, very soft and comfortable. But, of course, what I'm more interested in is this front driver's seat. That's where I want to be. And even here, this is still very sophisticated, very luxurious. In fact, these seats are 19-way adjustable, so you're not left wanting. And actually, they're incredibly comfortable. They're very supportive. There's plenty of side bolstering. There's really nice lumbar support, really great under thigh support, like I mentioned. All of these things can be adjusted. Lateral support here as well. The seating position is also pretty good. In fact, I drove the Evo recently, earlier today, and I was quite surprised by that seating position, but this somehow seems a little bit more sporty. I feel a little bit lower, and the steering wheel is also has a nice grip. It's a little bit thicker than the older Mercedes, so again, with this era. And again, as you'll notice, it's an AMG steering wheel, so you'll be hard-pressed to find any blatantly showing Mercedes logos. Shifter for the 4-speed automatic. So many adjustments. I mean, buttons galore, so many buttons, nice wood here on the dash. But very simple clocks, I must say. Comparatively, the clocks are very basic, but I'm guessing, I mean, it does the job. It has attack, a speedo, fuel gauge, oil pressure, temperature, an economy gauge. I have to figure out what that does when I start driving. I mean, it's so out of place in this. But even here, an AMG badge as well. Did you count all the AMG badges on this car? If you did, let me know. Put it down in the comments below. We'll see who gets the right answer. Now we are getting to drive the Hammer. Let's put that 384 horsepower to use. Already, first impressions. Well, visibility is actually really good. Very large windscreen, so which means that I have very good visibility out the side. The front. Large windows, so good visibility out the side, as well as a large windshield in the back. Steering feel is phenomenal. It's fantastic. I'm going on this banked circuit, this oval high-speed track. Really confidence inspiring. 4-speed auto with rear-wheel drive through a limited slip differential. I mean, you need to wrestle this a little bit. It is a big bruiser. It is a bit brutish. It's the Hammer. So the steering has a little bit of vagueness at times at higher speeds. I'm going about 130 right now. It does require a little bit of persuasion. And there's a lot of funny little idiosyncrasies or little quirks about this car. Like you have a 19-way adjustable seat, but the mirrors are adjusted with these manual little joysticks. How 80s is that? The pedals are all very heavy, so while the steering is quite light and has a very nice weight and feel, it's not overly heavy, it's not light, it's just the right amount. The pedals really require quite a lot of prodding. Sound insulation is really good. You hear that 6-liter V8 burbling and rumbling away, and you hear the exhaust as well, that nice AMG exhaust, the authentic, original, OG AMG exhaust also quite well. There's a little bit of vagueness in the steering at dead center. The suspension is pretty stiff. I'm on a very smooth surface, of course, but it's a very low, hunkered down car. Sound insulation is also pretty good. I mean, I've driven 20 cars, it's ranging from the first ever patent Benz Motorwagen till to the cars of all the different eras, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, every one of these eras. And I see such a great transition in Mercedes and the way their cars are. And this is a great era because you still have a lot of these mechanical things, but at the same time you have, a lot of very analog instruments. You have analog just analog technology overall, so it's a little bit more engaging, it's less computer-like, and noise insulation is much better than some of the older cars, of course, so yeah. But this Automatic is not the most responsive. I mean, I'm just cruising at high speed, so I'm not going on a racetrack where it needs to keep working. I don't have paddle shifters. There is a sport mode, I see, but you know, it doesn't want to kick down. Space also is pretty good. Everything is black. It does smell like a car from the 80s. The materials used, you just sink into. The seats are also really good. They have good side bolstering, very supportive, actually very well contoured. I'm quite surprised by the comfort of the seats, actually. But plenty of headroom for me. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters. Seating position is a little bit more upright than even, for example, the 300 SL. In the 300 SL, you're sitting really low. It's a very low profile car. Whereas here, I feel like I'm sitting on the chair rather than in the car. You know, I'm sitting a little bit higher. My knees are a little bit upright, but the dashboard is also fairly low. So the steering wheel and the dash is very low. Again, the visibility is really good compared to, for example, the 300 SL that I just compared it with, which is right ahead of us. So very different take. I like the grip of the steering wheel as well. It's got nice indentations for your fingers so you can get a nice grip. It's soft, it's not too thick, it's not really thin like the old cars. Very 80s also is the speedometer. It's always wiggling. So are you doing 140 or 145? You're not really sure. You're in the ballpark, and that's good enough, I suppose. There's also an economy meter. What is that? I mean, it's just more or less like a throttle position indicator, because if you floor it, of course it shows economy is really poor. If you let off the throttle, then it goes down. But if you're driving a 6-liter V8 AMG, I think economy is not on your mind at all. So it's just really funny to see that on this car. So anyway, great experience, and I think rightfully called the Hammer. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new here, if you like these kinds of classic car videos. Let us know in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.